Welcome to episode 311 of Angela Watson's Truth for Teachers. I'm your host, Angela Watson, and I'm here to speak encouragement into the hearts of educators and get you informed and energized for the week ahead. Today, I'm talking about soft starts, a gentle, inviting way to begin class or the school day. Visit truthforteachers.com for an easy-to-read, easy-to-share version of this podcast episode. This episode is brought to you in part by a really important podcast that I hope you'll check out. It's called Opportunity Gap: How to Support Kids of Color Who Learn Differently. It's hosted by Julian Saavedra, an assistant principal in Philadelphia who has spent nearly 20 years working in public schools. You'll hear Julian talk with parents and experts to offer tools that will help you support your students. You can even share this free podcast with kids' families. It's a wonderful resource for parents as well. To listen to Opportunity Gap, just search in your podcast app for Opportunity Gap: How to Support Kids of Color Who Learn Differently. That's Opportunity Gap: How to Support Kids of Color Who Learn Differently. If you use Google Chrome, you need to know about my favorite free Chrome extension for teachers. It's called Brisk Teaching, and it can instantly trim hours off the time it takes to write high-quality, personalized feedback on student work. And their feedback tool is just one of more than 30 that Brisk offers, including creating Google Slides and Google Form quizzes. Add Brisk to Chrome for free by heading to briskteaching.com. Have you ever had a moment in which you found out that there was a name for something that you'd already been doing in your classroom? That's how I felt when I heard the term soft start, and you might experience that same bolt of recognition as you listen to me describe this. Soft starts in the classroom refer to a gentle, flexible way to begin the school day. They're designed to help students transition smoothly into learning, so instead of jumping straight into warm-ups or other academic tasks, students are given a calm, welcoming period at the start of class where they can engage in low-stress activities like reading, drawing, journaling, creative activities, completing puzzles, STEM activities, quiet games, collaborative activities like light discussions or group projects. The purpose is to ease kids into the learning environment so that they have a chance to either settle down if they're really excited, or to connect with peers if they're the type of kid who just can't sit still and listen until after they've had a chance to talk a little bit, or maybe there's something really important they want to say to a friend. The soft starts allow them to do that. It's a space for them to mentally prepare for the day ahead and get themselves ready to learn. Soft starts are designed to foster a positive classroom atmosphere and reduce anxiety because they allow students to gradually shift into a learning mindset instead of having that harsh tradition of walking in the door and immediately getting to work. Soft starts are things that I naturally did with my students, both first thing in the morning and after lunch. And I did that for both logistical reasons, especially in the morning as the kids would slowly trickle into the classroom instead of arriving all at once, and also for personal reasons that I will admit centered my own needs as a teacher more than those of my students. You see, I'm an introvert, and I'm highly sensitive to lights and sounds. I get easily overwhelmed in crowded and noisy environments. So my classroom always had to be a place of calm because that's the only way I could function. And every day it was a struggle for me to transition mentally from the quiet of an empty classroom to the hustle and bustle of one filled with students as the first bell rang. I began my teaching career in a public Head Start program teaching 3- and 4-year-olds. And it was customary in our program to have students hang up their backpacks and come to the rug and select a book to, quote-unquote, read while waiting for class to begin. And while I experimented with many other ways to begin the school day, I have to say this remains my favorite. The kids who were still half asleep can just curl up in a beanbag with a picture book and quietly turn the pages while they adjust to the brightness and the noise and the stimulus of the classroom. The kids who have pent-up energy from sitting on the bus can chat animatedly about their book with a friend or read together. They can also get up from the rug as many times as they need to select a new book, which was the highlight of this routine for some kids. while others just sprawled out on their tummies, immersed in whatever text-based world they'd selected for themselves. This was absolutely lovely for me because I was not responsible for teaching, or getting any materials out, or organizing any kind of activity. And it was the same thing every day. So I never had to wonder, what should I have the kids do when they come in the room tomorrow? I was free to just be there with my students. I could comfort anyone who was crying. I could have a quick conversation at the door with a parent. And I could gauge the energy and mood of my students. Every day, it was the same. Substitutes often commented on how ingrained the habit was in my students, and how even when I wasn't there, the kids would just immediately head from the coat rack to the rug and select a book. So I continued this practice for many of the years that I taught, even at the elementary level when I taught second and third grade. Students had book boxes, which held 5 to 6 books, and they changed them out once a week. Once a week, they went to the library and they had about 15 minutes to pick new books. So that way, every single morning, they already had books that were just right for them and that they were interested in. They could just come in, grab their book box, and start exploring whatever text inside felt interesting that day. So that's how the practice just sort of evolved for me. But it turns out that the concept of a soft start is supported by research in areas like socio-emotional learning, student autonomy, and the importance of smooth transitions into the school day. So while much of the evidence supporting the effectiveness of a soft start comes from the application of broader research, rather than studies specifically about soft starts, I think you will still notice some benefits in your classroom. For one thing, it can really reduce student anxiety. A soft start is a stress-free transition into the school day, or at least it's supposed to be. It lets kids ease into the environment without the pressure of diving straight into academic work. So if you have students who are anxious or who need extra time to adjust in the morning, because they know their peers are independently engaged, they know you're free to talk with them about a problem they're having or to let you know how they're feeling that day. By allowing students to engage in calming or enjoyable activities, soft starts also help create a positive emotional tone and promote socio-emotional well-being. It also encourages independence and responsibility. Kids can usually select from a range of activities, or in the example that I gave, a range of reading materials to explore, and practice managing their own time and preparing themselves for the day at their own pace. Another benefit of soft starts is that it can enhance focus and learning readiness. Giving kids time to transition into the day at their own pace allows them to settle emotionally and mentally, making them more ready to focus when formal lessons begin. This can improve attention, behavior, and overall academic performance. And I think that soft starts can also potentially reduce tardiness. I don't have any data to back this up, but it makes sense that by making the start of the school day something enjoyable that students really look forward to and don't want to miss, students may be incentivized to get to class on time. So let's talk about what are the basic elements of soft starts. And we're going to talk about elementary and secondary because this can work from K all the way up to 12, and even pre-K, as I explained in my own personal anecdote. For younger students, soft starts work by giving kids a calm, flexible beginning to the day through structured, yet low-pressure activities. So that can be anything you want that fits that bill. You can provide options that encourage social interaction, creativity, or independent work, or a combination of these. So it begins with an arrival routine. As kids arrive, they may hang up their belongings, check in, and proceed to a designated area in the classroom where soft start activities are available. This creates a sense of order and predictability, so they know every single day. They come in and look at the board, or they come in and go over to the table where their materials are, and they select something to do. The choice of activities is another basic element of the soft starts. Teachers usually offer a range of activities that are engaging, but not too demanding, because remember, we're trying to warm up the brain for the day. We want kids to be able to choose something that interests them. Some of the choices may provide opportunities for social interaction and relationship building. So many teachers allow opportunities for light conversation. Students can talk with peers, they can work together on activities, or they can share what they're working on. And this really helps build a sense of community and gives students the chance to connect before the formal learning begins. Because some students and teachers may prefer a quiet start to the day, you can change up the expectations. Monday mornings may be a great time for silent soft starts, since kids are usually a little groggy and reserved after the weekend. And Friday mornings might be better for more social choices, since students tend to be more excitable and talkative then. Of course, you could respond in the opposite way, particularly if you teach at the secondary level and getting student engagement and participation is a bigger issue. You might want to have collaborative choices available for students on Monday mornings to get them prepared to interact during your lessons, get the energy of the room up, and that sort of thing, and then have a calm Friday morning for quiet solo activities. To communicate the day's expectations, you can either display each soft start choice with descriptors like independent journaling or read on your own, or have a sign that tells students it's okay to talk and work with friends, or that they should be working independently and quietly. So this might be a magnet on the board that has independent work on one side and soft talking okay on the other side. Or it could be information projected via a morning slide deck. Whatever form of communication you usually use for students, this can fit right in. It's important that whatever choices you're giving students, that the expectations are low pressure. There's no immediate rush to complete tasks or focus on rigorous academics. The emphasis is on exploration, creativity, getting comfortable in the learning environment. Soft start work is typically not graded or assessed, and it's just a chance for students to learn for the sake of enjoyment or play. After the soft start, you want to have some sort of transition to formal learning. So this could be a calming bell, it could be a verbal cue, or maybe a routine like a morning meeting or some sort of group circle time. So by this point, students are more settled in and they're ready to focus on academic work. Soft starts are most effective when they're consistent. Having this kind of structured but flexible beginning to each day helps kids feel secure and develop a routine they can rely on, and that promotes a smooth transition into learning. I recommend offering soft starts every day so that students know to expect it, and then you can simply switch up the choices depending on what the rest of the day will look like. So if you have a field trip or an early morning assembly and the soft start can only last 5 minutes that day, write that on the board for student reference, and then limit choices to something very simple that doesn't involve getting a lot of materials out, maybe just independent reading or journaling. But the idea is that you still want to have them use the structure every day. Now, let's talk about how soft starts are different at the elementary versus secondary level. While the core idea of easing students into their day remains the same for all grades, the structure and activities will, of course, differ. There's two main differences. The first is that elementary soft starts are generally longer, since secondary soft starts operate within a shorter time frame. So a soft start for elementary classrooms and for those teachers who have the same group of students all day long might last as much as 10 or 20 minutes. When students are switching classes throughout the day, as is typical in secondary schools, soft starts might occur just within the first few minutes of the class period. Teachers may allot the first 5 to 10 minutes of class for students to settle in and then dive into the lesson. Secondary teachers might also choose to only do soft starts with the first class period of the day, or maybe with the class that they have after lunch, who's just sort of like sitting there and isn't very involved and maybe needs a little bit of time to mentally transition from that break back into the learning environment. Or maybe as a secondary teacher, you want to do soft starts with the class that has particularly low engagement and needs to warm up a bit before they can fully participate in the lessons or be talking and interacting with each other. So the time frame is one main difference between elementary and secondary soft starts. The other is that at the elementary level, the activities are typically not related to the day's lesson. They could be, but they typically aren't. Whereas secondary soft starts may focus more on subject-specific activities. So in K-5, soft start choices might include crafts, puzzles, games, STEM challenges, building with blocks, selected centers or stations that are open for free exploration, and that sort of thing. So as students arrive, they might choose between reading a book, working on a jigsaw puzzle, drawing, or finishing up a project. Some students may quietly chat with peers, which lets them catch up with each other right away rather than trying to sneak in those personal conversations during structured group work time. Other students may complete their morning check-in routine, such as moving their name on a chart, or completing a class job. After 10 minutes, the teacher transitions them to a morning meeting where the day's agenda is discussed and the day begins. In grades 6 to 12, soft start choices are often linked to the class content, but they're less intense than the main instruction or assignments. So for middle and high school students, the activities might be journal writing, reflecting on the previous lesson, or a quick low-stakes review question or warm-up, silent reading, or research on a topic of interest, time to work on long-term projects, or mindfulness practices that fit their maturity level. Soft starts for secondary students may be followed by a do now or a bell ringer activity that's designed to activate prior knowledge or prepare them mentally for the day's lesson. So these might involve critical thinking prompts, quick writes, or short problem-solving tasks. However, the idea of a soft start centers on autonomy and low-pressure stakes. So ideally, students are given a choice of activities that suit their preferences and help them warm up in a way that feels good, rather than just diving right into review questions. Teachers might use the soft start time to gauge where students are in their learning, provide extra support, answer quick questions, or check in on individual progress. So this can be an informal way for students to get feedback or guidance without the pressure of a formal setting or knowing that they're being graded on what they're doing. So while soft starts at the secondary level still aim to create a calm, welcoming transition into learning, they're often shorter, more academically oriented, and designed to foster independence and subject-specific engagement. And of course, you could do that at the elementary level, and if you teach at the secondary level, you don't have to make them as academic-based. It really depends on you, your students, and your teaching context. So if this is something you think you might want to try, let's talk about the process for introducing the concept of soft starts to your class. Presumably, you're listening to this after the school year has started, and I want to emphasize you do not need to wait for a brand new, fresh quarter, semester, or school year to change things up. There's really easy ways that you can talk to students and try something new with them at any time during the school year. I'm going to share a step-by-step guide for how you can introduce soft starts effectively. So the first step is to explain the purpose, maybe how you learned about the idea, and why you think it will benefit the class. So always start by explaining why you want to try doing something new with your students, including in this case, incorporating soft starts. Keep it simple and focus on benefits like easing into the day and helping students feel ready to learn. I really like modeling lifelong learning and curiosity for students by telling them about outside reading I've done or experiences I've had in my life that have sparked my interest in a new classroom idea. So for younger students, you might say something like, does it ever feel hard to start thinking about schoolwork as soon as you walk in the classroom? I've noticed that some of you are pretty tired when you come in, and some of you have lots of things that you're excited to talk about. I was reading an article that helps teachers find enjoyable ways to start their day with their students, and I heard about something called soft starts. The idea is that instead of just jumping right into our lesson, you'll have some free choice time to explore activities that help you get ready to learn. For older students, you might want to call them gentle starts or easy starts. If you think the term soft starts might cause some giggling or innuendo, you know your students is just something that occurred to me when I was planning out this episode. So call them whatever you want, but you might say something like this. So I was listening to a podcast about different ways that teachers start the class period, and I heard about something called soft starts. The idea is that instead of jumping right into bell work or the lesson, you'll have some time to explore activities that help you feel ready for the day. If you need some time to yourself without having to interact with other people, you can choose a solo activity. If you need to catch up with a friend before you can focus on the lesson, you'll have a minute to do that. It's not just free time. It's an opportunity to choose an activity that mentally prepares you for learning. You know yourself best. I want you to practice tuning into what you need on any given day and selecting activities that help you ease into the work that you're going to need to do in class. So this is a really clear purpose. Again, each one of those things takes maybe 30 seconds to say to students, but you want to really set the stage so they understand the benefits. The next step for introducing this concept to your class is to set clear expectations on what choices are available to students. Be specific about the routines and activities, And emphasize again, this is not a free-for-all. This is not free time. It's not wasted time. We're not pulling out our cell phones and scrolling through social media. This is a productive and positive and intentional way to begin the day. So you might explain it like this. When you come into the room, look at the board and see what the choices are that are available for that day. Choose something that helps you feel calm and focused. You can talk quietly, but remember to keep the noise low so that everyone feels like they have the opportunity to ease into the learning day in their own way. Some people are going to want to be left alone or want quiet, so let's respect that choice. The third step is to demonstrate and practice the routines. So walk your students through the soft start process. Show them how to choose and begin an activity, show them where all the materials are located, and talk about how the transition to the regular lessons will happen afterwards. So you might say, let me show you how this will work. Today we're going to practice it, and then tomorrow we'll use this as our morning routine. So when you arrive, you'll pick an activity from this table or from the list that's displayed, and you'll find your seat. Let's say you choose a book. You'll be able to relax and read for 10 minutes, while others might choose to work on a project. You'll be listening for this signal to know when it's time to prepare for the lesson. At my signal, you'll put away the soft start materials and then give them the instructions. So make sure that you're playing that chime or bell or whatever kind of signal you want to have to transition them out. Start to familiarize students with that sound now. For younger students, you might want to actually have them choose their activity that first day and practice for several minutes so that you can train them in how to listen for the signal and then transition into the lesson. Then tell students, tomorrow when you come into class, you're going to look at whatever place in the room has the directions to know what your choices are for the soft start activities, and you'll choose one to do. When you hear my signal, and then give your direction, which is putting away the materials or getting out other materials, whatever it is you want them to do. Let's try this out for a week or so, and then I'll ask for your feedback, and we'll decide together how we should continue or if we should continue. So then do that. Give them about a week or so. Try it out. Let them experiment a little bit. You can make small adjustments along the way. If you notice it's too much time or not enough time, or maybe one choice is too disruptive, or maybe one choice there just isn't enough time, kids just barely get started and then time runs out and you need to remove that, you can make those little tweaks. And then about after a week or so, ask for student input. Say to kids, so we've been doing this new morning routine for about a week now. Is this better than what we were doing before? What do you like about it? Remember, the goal is to help you ease into the school day and mentally prepare for learning. What could we do to make this a better process to help with that? You can also ask students what kinds of activities they'd like to see during soft starts. I don't recommend doing this until they've tried out the routine, but once they've done it, they're probably going to have some really good suggestions and maybe even some things that you would have never thought of. So, for example, you could ask, what types of things help you feel calm and ready for the day? Would you like more of this particular type of choice? Would it help if this particular activity wasn't an option because you find it distracting when others choose that? We can switch up the activities based on what's helpful to you. So please feel free to share your ideas. The final step in introducing soft starts to your class is to reference the soft starts organically to help students see the practice as a part of their learning day and an opportunity to understand their own needs and ensure those needs are met. And to me, this is the most powerful part of the soft start. Notice opportunities to refer back to this routine and say things like, I notice that folks are really finding their flow with soft starts now. You all were so focused and calm, and that made it easier for us to jump into math. Or, I notice that some of you are a little shaken up and distracted by that incident in the hallway before class. Remember that one of your soft start choices is journaling and drawing, as well as talking with your friends. If you need some time to process what happened, that's what soft starts are for. Do what you need to do for yourself now so you can be ready to focus on science in a few minutes. Or it looks like this specific activity or station or project that we've done together in class is something that a lot of people have enjoyed. Would you like to add that to our choices for soft start activities? It seems like a good option to help some of you get focused and ready to participate in class. So again, we're reiterating to them that's the purpose here. We're choosing things in the morning that help us get focused and ready to participate. It's going to be different things for different people, and it's going to be different for each individual on any given day. But that's our focus, and we're training kids to learn that they have to warm up their brains, warm up their bodies, and prepare to learn. And you can even do this by talking to individual students about it. So you might say to one kid, "Hey, I noticed that you're seeming a little tired today. Which soft start activity could you choose to help you wake up?" And really help them sort of tap into these options in a way that's useful for them. Your takeaway truth for the week ahead is a tie back to something you've heard me say often. Small changes add up to big results. Soft starts don't require a monumental shift in your daily routine, but they're a simple way to create a foundation of calm, focus, and connection that will ripple through every lesson. They're an opportunity for students to learn how to gauge their own needs and choose activities that help meet those needs so they're prepared to learn. Have a great week. You can do this. And remember, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be worth it.